Okay, do you need this for the
Hi,
presentation?
thanks a lot. Well, I wouldn't want to repeat her question again. How are you guys feeling after that great lunch? But with your kind permission, I see those glows on all your faces already because if you have the hunger, you'll definitely not go off to sleep. And how do you all feel? You should all definitely feel like I'm on top of the world, like how Karen Carpenter puts it. Have you all heard of Karen Carpenter? Wow, there's at least one, two, three, four, five. So it goes on like, I'm on the top of the world looking down on creation, and the only explanation I can find is the love that I found ever since we've been around. You almost put me on the top of the world. So, so it's that hunger that has brought you all here today. And why is this topic so dear to me? It's a personal experience. Guys, I'm telling you, this is not new at all. Don't go by the jargons that says in this sentence, oh, inclusion, equity, diversity, everything. It's a bunch of jargons. That's all. This has been existing for centuries. And the adaptation and the adoption was different. That's all. And as centuries passed, we've all adapted and adopted as per the needs of the 21st century. So, why is this very dear to me? In the early 2000s, when I arrived in the Western Hemisphere, I had no clue what inclusion was. I'm being straightforward with you. But I have been doing inclusion all my life because I'm a third generation family of teachers, but I didn't know how to term it. That's all. So when I arrived, there was this student of mine. The name is withheld because I come from a country which has a strong data protection law. So this student of mine was an excellent artist. Excellent. But if you got him down to an assessment at the table in an exam hall, he would miserably fail. So he knew only how to express it in the form of art. So I said, hey, name is fictitious once again. Joseph, come here. You know what? You didn't perform well in the biology tests at all. But why? Oh, but Mr. Sitaram, you know what? I really can't write and pronounce like others, but you know, I can draw very well. Come on, Joseph, let's give it a shot, you know? And the same anatomy and circulation was described far, 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 far better than how a normal child probably would have taken hours and lots of pressure from the parents, mugging up the whole thing, and finally delivering it in the exam and say, oh my God, it's over. That is the beginning of failure. Oh my God, it's over. No. Ah, I did it. Can you see this? That is the beginning of progress. And this is what inclusion is all about, how we kind of tend down to individual assessments so as to how we look into what's the performance, how is the performance. Well, enough of my blah, 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 because I'm going on and on and on. And I wouldn't want to do it because we have the stalwarts here today who are all experts in their own field of inclusion. I must also tell you that this group is an excellent and organized group because they've been in touch ever since we were given this topic, which means they have really done their homework. So I have the pleasure of inviting Ms. Nadia Badr Eldeen, who is the academic educational consultant for the Consulting Group of International Education, as our panelist here today. We've all heard Ms. Elizabeth Percy, who was here earlier, and she is the Chief Trainer for Behavioral Skills Communication from Smart Inspiration UAE.
Round of applause,
Madam,
please.
please. It's a pleasure to have you on board. Well, we've had some discussions since this morning because I'm closely associated with this school as well. We have Ms. Taruna Khattar, who is the head of inclusion, Ambassador Schools of Dubai. We have Mr. Samir Al Madan, who is from Jordan, and he is the MD of Muhakat Jordan.
Am I the only man?
I'm there.
Me? All right, that's great because this is very inclusive for women.
Perfect.
All right?
Yes. So, as we all put it, I always have this tendency of beginning and inviting the audience because I've been a Rotarian for quite a number of years, and the first phrase we use to welcome our audience is our galaxy of the education fraternity present here this afternoon. So let's all get together. You know, it's not that we discuss something just because we are here at the conference. It makes no sense because whatever is in theory is good in theory, because what the problems you face within your classroom or within your teaching environment is what that counts. And that's the top-notch professional development you can take back with you this afternoon, because that's exactly what we're going to discuss here today. So, coming to inclusion, all the ladies and the gentlemen here.
I'm flattered. Having all the ladies, me and you, just sitting.
By the way, we'll talk about it later. So as you all know, we have to really satisfy some of the goals, and we all do have pressure from all ends, as you know. It may be the head of school, or it may be the board of members, or it may be the local government, or it may be the accrediting agency, right? So I have some questions for you already. However, I do not want to take much time today. I'd like to start off with Ms. Khattar today about her challenges in inclusion, because she has dealt with various branches of curriculum, and it's very interesting now because we say these days, because everybody is competitive, every single accrediting agency or a curriculum or an external examination agency is competitive. Take it in words, in writing, because at the end of the day, each one of them really wants to be in the forefront of delivering their curriculum. However, the question to these agencies are, how are you accommodating inclusion in your curriculum? And is there a way of assessment which is overall? Unfortunately, we've not had the right answer for that question so far, because each one says, well, you know what, we give you 20%, we give you 25%, let's see what sort of assistance this student requires. Maybe multiply that by 10% divided by 2. That's the normal factor which we use for the calculation of giving the inclusive time. This is a big challenge. So, Taruna, how do you face this?
In fact, I had been fortunate enough because I had seen the whole learning journey out here. So, if I say there are 7 pillars of inclusion, which I always say it's accessibility, your what do you call adaptation and everything. Above all, you have what you call it as communication and your collaborations, all these things which really matters to bring inclusion in practice. And we were fortunate enough to have in this part of the world that Dubai government was quite good in terms of laying down that framework and leadership, which plays a very big role to start up this in a big way. So the policy reforms were done. Yes, there were big challenges in changing the attitude of people because it's a big mental, stigma, and it's not easy to have that shift. And specifically, when we want to bring inclusion, the teachers need to, educators in the classrooms who are dealing with them, need to bring that, they need to take that accountability instead of only a specialist who is doing or working with them. So there was a big challenge out there, but yes, slowly and gradually, with the, like, as I told, that the vision of the sheikh out there, so we could make this difference in the school because we have to. There is no other choice being given. So that really made a big difference in bringing that change in the school specifically. And in fact, in Dubai, we are seeing a big shift. Now, in terms of, bringing this change in the classroom, there were a lot of differentiation and modifications which were expected. Earlier, it used to be done by the specialists, but now slowly and gradually it has been taken over by the teachers. So they understand too that what is the importance of bringing that difference in the classroom. Now, again, here we are not only dealing with children who are really, strugglers, but also on the higher end. Like in the previous session, we had about talking about the
Gifted
gifted
children.
children. So
Yes.
when we are able to meet these two categories, rest of them are taken care of. So that is a big thing. And above all, again, we are talking about the, what you call collaborations. It really plays a big role. So a lot of trainings and collaborations helped us to bring this change.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Were you involved in preparation of the documentation?
Yes, quite a lot.
Wow. You know what? We'll talk later because my friend is here. She's the director of communication, Sumana Chatterjee from GEMS Academy. And we really love this kind of a precise documentation because then you have something which you can show. It's not just drafted out by your subordinates and then it's being presented. It's something that's going on.
Exactly.
Like, I'll give you a very small example here. There was a visitor to our school earlier, and I said, there's no Hollywood that goes on here. Everything is normal. On a day-to-day basis, we do this, you know? So that's one thing. And coming back to gifted education, can you throw some light on that? Because I'd like to just give you an example. My former employers, I'll be very proud enough in letting you know that it is the CJD Braunschweig, Wolfsburg, and the CEO is right here, Kirk Chamberlain. We really take great pride because we do have the honor of having gifted children and a separate department for gifted education at the CJD. And with respect to your collaboration, he is the man.
Yeah, thank you. We too have a department, separate department, not department, I would say, but separate team for it. Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. Elizabeth is all bubbly and she's so happy to be expressing now. Let's hear from her how she deals with this on a day-to-day basis.
Smart Inspiration UAE training is just 2 years, 4 months, but it's a vision of Dr. Engineer Mohammed Ibrahim Al Ali, who is Dubai government. So I'm in a safe place. And we have 2 sets of accreditation. We have one Dubai government because we are KHDA. So those are my skill courses like communication, international protocol, PR, podcast training, etc., because those are my industries and my certificate is on the system. I have only trained rulers and rulers and rulers, so Kuwait, Qatar, Dubai, Ras Al Khaimah, Abu Dhabi, so they know that, and it's on the system. Even when I was asked to be a keynote speaker, I got a call from Dubai government to say, "Are you back on stage again?" I said yes. So I am born and raised in Kuwait, and I'm known for this for many years in my aviation industry or communication, etc. So there is a cover that has made it possible. Secondly, I have worked only for the who is who of UAE and Qatar and Kuwait. And I've not got a position based on my CV. It was moving as per what the leadership wanted.
Sorry for the interruption, but I love that phrase. It's just not what you see on my CV.
That's not-
Fantastic.
I'm the daughter of a mother who worked only for two palaces, the Palace of Bahrain and the Palace of Kuwait. So then it is a different game. But again, we are 5 siblings and only one is in royals. So I will tell you that on the other side when I'm doing my keynote, how it happens. So that's the part. So now one part is KHDA, but our courses as RGBA, etc., are from the US. We are under R&D in the US, and we are certified and trained by them, and we have to prove our students before they certify us. So we take cases like ADHD, some borderline, psychiatric cases, etc., and we turn them according to the RGBA results, which is biometric results. Then we train them according and move them away from genetic where they have to, or move them forward, but they know their baseline where they will hit. And we have been awarded by Canadian University because a reject case from them, we turned over, and today he's a scholarship student at Middlesex University. Wow. So we do one-on-one. We are not there doing groups, because my mother is a brain doctor, and I've learned this from childhood. So one-on-one works because the brain is no respecter of another brain till you give it the confidence. All right, and that's where I come in, and this is our 4th award in 2 years. We got our first award in 15 days. So basically, I'm a CBT trainer as per genetic analysis. I'm a master in communications as per genetic indicators. I'm a psychobiotic trainer because what you eat is how the brain opens up. Yeah. So all this we do according to the case in front of us. Amazing. So you will hear on the other side the podcast from, they would not be here today had they not jumped into the classroom. So our students are bankers, lawyers, judges of Dubai Court. Then we have children 6 years and above. As per KHDA, we can take only 6 years and above. And our latest student is 63 years. Why? Biometrics has no age gap limit. It's how far your energy and your enthusiasm has gone. The brain is listening to your messaging. So this is where we are, and we are very proud of His Highness. By the way, members of the ruling family are also my students. So what Sheikh Mohammed is doing is basically a creative world, so he goes with his guts. And he's created Dubai to that extent. I'm also a trainer with the crew of Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed in Abu Dhabi, and I was a direct report of Sheikh Saud. So I'm okay with that, I guess. And that's how they have put me everywhere. But I haven't stopped studying because the cases I get are still different. So our team in the US, who are all medical doctors, make sure that we are certified and trained soon after the clinical research is proven, yes. So it's one-on-one, so it's a different story than classrooms. But we do groups from certain offices, but not more than 6. But a common message will be given to the 6, and then there'll be in breakout, I would do one-on-one. Because the brain doesn't talk everything when you are in a group. It goes into fear, it goes into pushback, and therefore we don't do that. We bring the confidence out, and even as I'm speaking, two of my students are with the Director General of Expo 2020, and the other one is with the VP office, but they're trained for more than 1.5 years. How do I select my instructors? They need to be my students. They would have to have worked this 2 years with me. They would see me handling the students, and only then what they are able to crack, I would be able to give them that area to do. That's it. Okay, so that's how it is. We have another holistic side, because where you cannot crack with your rational brain, the holistic side goes to the innate intelligence, where your inborn strength is mathematics and maths. So we will hit the numbers, which is called energy circles and switch words. So I've got holistic trainers, knowledge partners, and I've got scientific knowledge partners. My signature course is what built me all these years, which is the power of you, power of thought, and power of words, which is what I use for the ADHD case. And today he's a university student. But again, what happened there was the parents told him at the age of 3, do not talk. So he didn't talk for 19 years. His first painting is in my office. That he did at the age of 19. So we had to crack that. Yeah. Now when we cracked that, he became very noisy. Therefore, we are in a high tower, which belongs to so-and-so. So we had to tell the security, it's a classroom, it's fine. So that took us like 6 months before Middlesex took him. Then they did 2 documentaries on how we trained it. So every brain is different. Everybody is a genius. And being raised in a certain way also, I realized that we label, and that's wrong.
Totally agree with you. You know what? When I see this consortium of experts sitting here, just imagine, you don't need to rewrite history or reinvent the wheel. It's no rocket science. These are the ones who can create a SEN accrediting document on the spot, because they have all their expertise here. And just imagine what a relief it is to a school, that needs to, come out with the SEN policy. I think we should definitely collaborate, because this is one area, I'm being very honest with you, where I take a lot of help, because I'm not a professional, when it comes to SEN. We'd rather have the professionals handle it, but there are professionals who would probably be very, very formal, and it wouldn't work, because you have to tone down your way of approach. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Here only passion works.
That's the answer. Perfect.
And here in this part of the world, because the rulers are very appreciative of creative mind, Sheikh Mohammed's vision is only that, and he cannot accept anything other than that. So we are at an advantage. As long as it is giving, it's innovative and it's creative, he is all for it. And the government is there to support us here. We are doing all this thanks to the Dubai government, thanks to boss sitting there.
Exactly.
Sir, SEN, support. I think we should really acknowledge whatever he is doing to... Fantastic. Thanks a lot. So, I have another question. Questions keep popping out now. So, because I'm hungry now to take more and more so that we can have it in the accreditation document with our collaboration, of course. So, Nadia, I have a question for you. How do you deal when it comes to convincing your team about this inclusion?
About inclusion, yes, but it's totally unfair that my turn comes after her turn. She said everything. What do you expect
No.
me to add? Okay.
Just say what you're doing, that's all.
Okay.
And everybody is happy.
Right. I'm just going to tell you about I've been in the field of education for 28 years or probably more, I will tell you my simple, humble experience inside the classroom to implement inclusion. Well, there is no set of recipe for inclusion inside the classroom.
I agree with you.
It's just what the teacher creates. It's the flavor that she adds to her climate, to her classroom climate. And this is what I keep telling my team players. It's what they do. It's all about the relationship with each individual inside the classroom, how they care about them, how they trust them, how they respect them, how they do not ignore a group of students on the expense of other groups. Because if they ignore a group of students, definitely they will lose their confidence. There will be no emotional attachment between the teacher and the ignored group. And the consequences will be that they will be sliding down the tube and not achieving anything at all. So respect and to value each individual inside the classroom definitely is a positive relationship will lead to success. This is one thing. The other thing I felt is that the shared experience, we as adults, we sit together at the end of the day and we share our best practices together to see what went right and what went wrong. We should be doing this, the same thing with our children inside the classroom. If we give them the opportunity to talk about their experiences, for example, a sports day that was conducted in the school, to share a field trip that they went with the school, to share and to talk about an art exhibition that displayed their work, to share and talk about anything they did in the school. So definitely the connection is there. The collaboration between the teacher and the students is there, and therefore it will end up to self-confidence, great achievement, and great attachment between the teacher and the students. Another thing which I think is very important is the transparency. Transparency between the students and the teacher. I do remember in one of the schools, I set a certain expectation with my students inside the classroom. What I expect them to do and what I want them to do within and without my presence. And I heard from them what they want me to do with them, within and without their presence. And to the extent that teachers on their way back and forth in front of my classroom, they see my students inside the class completely abide by my rules inside the class, sitting with their books and binders and copybooks prepared, waiting for my arrival inside, waiting for my arrival, and not a single voice heard. Teachers come and ask me, how do you do that? You're not there. No one is subbing your class. Students are waiting for you nicely and politely. I said, it's just a matter of trust. I expressed the desire of the best practices I want from them. They express the best desires they want from me, and we are sharing it equally, and we are working on fine. So this help for inclusion to achieve. Another thing which is they have to feel that they belong to the school, they belong to your class, and they love your class. Listening to them. And when they feel that your voice, their voice is heard, and part of your plan and part of your practices, then they feel that they belong to your class, they love your class, and they love the school. It's all about the flavor, the spice and vinegar that you add to your classroom climate. It's just a very humble experience. I'm sorry, it's simple versus to what she introduced, but that's me.
Putting it in a nutshell, it's not simple, it's highly positive and contagious, which is very good. Well, Samir has been waiting. He's
Yeah.
already grabbing
my
all
turn.
his thoughts. So,
All right. So basically, I do not come from a schooling background like my colleagues. I come from a corporate mindset and the private sector world. And I would like to share some experience on what happens really within the corporate setups and actually in professional training setups. From a corporate standpoint, it is given that inclusion and diversity embraced by organizations has higher ROI on the organization. So that was a study published by Harvard Business Review last year that talks about the ROI of an organization for one that's inclusive versus one that's not inclusive. Very interesting study on how you can connect inclusion and diversity and monetize it actually, away from the morals, the sustainability factors, the ethical factors. So organizations today are invited to embrace inclusion and diversity. As I come also from a professional education and certification track background in education, we have plenty of classes happen within organizations, and we have many instructors, and we teach our instructors to always try to avoid unconscious bias that takes place when they start teaching, you know. As just you were reflecting on the school setup, we also have professional classes where the instructors might be biased to whatever it is, gender, age, mentality, religion, race, you name it, color, whatever. Yeah, so we always train our trainers to try always to control, it's unconscious by its nature, to try to always control the unconscious bias that they would have towards the attendees actually. In a different track as well, as an organization that educates, I think every professional education institute should be signatory and create commitment to inclusion and diversity. When it comes, how do you want to accept learners at the class, and how do you want to treat everyone fairly? So working with international partners like SEPS and APEX and CELT, which is our partners, they make sure that us as their partners are committed to inclusion and diversity. So their policies of inclusion and diversity spreads down to their partners everywhere. All right, so that's one important thing actually when it comes to inclusion and diversity. More often, we also learn from the organizations that we teach actually. And we go to organizations and see some of them really embrace inclusion and diversity, and some of them does not. And that reflects on who's attending the class. You name it, from nationality to religion to everything. But some organizations are strict about that. What they do basically is they create one culture for everyone, and that culture is respect and equality between learners, all right, in the organization. So, and I once have I don't know, it's not a funny story, but I would love to share from my own experience, where I went into a class to teach, I teach supply chain. So I went into one great corporate to teach them supply chain, they had 20 learners coming from Arabic background and one learner that doesn't speak Arabic, right? And he really looked in my eyes as minority in comparison to 20. See the unconscious bias? Yes. Yeah? There you go. He looked like a minority to me in comparison to 20 learners that speak the same language. So in an unconscious way, I started speaking Arabic, all right? And it's like 20 seconds where I speak Arabic, and this guy definitely does not speak Arabic or he understands me. So one of the learners stopped me and said, "Excuse me, sir, can you please speak in English? Our colleague does not speak Arabic." All right? Amazing. And we had to shift the entire class to speak in English, despite the fact that we have 19 attendees speaking Arabic and one speaking English. That's a perfect, I learned a lesson that day of being inclusive, yeah, and giving the simplest form of equality between learners actually in a class. All right? Anyway, we always stress out when we train our trainers that make sure you always understand who are the audience. You cater to the differences that they have from knowledge, age, religion, whatever you name it. And I think this is something you practice by time. All right? For you to become a senior instructor, a professional educator, it takes some time where you lay down the foundation to being inclusive and diverse at the educational class. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Samir. You know, one thing I really found unique, especially from Nadia's response, if I travel back, starting off your conversation, you see all the three in equal parts in your response. How did you manage it? You know, you see inclusion, you see equity, and you see diversity. If I may ask, what's the range of nationalities you handled?
No, most of our students in my class, they are Egyptians nationality. We have some cases of international students, but rare. But I do remember that last year I had a Chinese student in my class, and constantly we talked to her to give us, I mean, as a session, I give her the floor to talk to the students about the traditions and the cultures of the Chinese people, the learning environment inside the Chinese schools, and they do the same thing. They work together, they sit together, and she did not know a single word in English. It was really amazing how she sat in my classroom with her mobile using Google at all the times to translate every word I say in class. And even communicating with her classmates, she used Google, but we succeeded to a certain extent that she established friends and she was there, involved, completely involved and engaged in our learning environment, in our style and so on.
Your positive approach did go a long, long way.
Yes, by giving her to sharing, that's the point,
Yes.
the sharing her experiences back in her country versus her experience in our school, in our country, and then we compare, we talk, we discuss, we share. That's the simple flavor that you can add to make it sure that it works.
Fantastic.
In fact,
Please,
I have to
Taruna.
just add on, because this is something which even we use it, celebrating the differences rather than finding the difference.
Amazing.
Because we try to meet these two ends when I'm dealing with gifted learners or special needs, or maybe the middle learners, like average learners. We try to build them in them that we need to figure out what are the strengths in each one of you, and we try to create the programs or lessons where they each one of them complement each other, so they learn from each other rather than finding the difference. That really works.
Fantastic. Elizabeth, please.
So early days of Smart Inspiration, we used to do the intuitive and get them, and now we have the biometric machine, so it will tell you who is introvert, who is extrovert, what is the scale of the interpersonal, intrapersonal, Where is the career path? 1, 2, 3, child behavior, adult behavior. Uh, who, who is close to depression? 12, who's away from it? Where is the anger? Where is this? Because it actually, the table develops as per your fingerprint, which means when you were in your mother and you were 3 weeks, your brain was, you were 3 weeks old in your mother, then the brain started to develop. And that's the time the fingerprint starts. And it's not the child, actually, it's the mother. I'm sorry to say that. It's the mother. And if it's a relationship where the husband is angry or they're always fighting, the baby is able to imbibe that from that time. So actually, when we are doing the genetic, we have from 6-year-old children. The youngest is from Egypt, and he's 6 years. And he's amazing. I'll be showing on the other side how it would be. And the child is used to the voice, so it becomes sound intolerant. And as a baby, it decides not to listen right there. So when it's growing up, it's actually not listening. You can yell as much as you want as a mom or a dad, but it's not going to listen to you. So this is where we see it, and then we take them out, and we try to take them out. And the brain's perceptions will show up. What is cognitive, what is critical, what is affective, and what is reflective. So as you said, the affective child will, when you're nice to them, they will be fantastic. 0 to 20, emotional brain works. The other day I have a doctor who was my student, and her son wouldn't talk. He was 4 years, just became 4 years. But my doctors on board, they said, no, cognitively he's fine. And then he told me, tell the mother to take a break from work. Let her just smile and play with the child. And he just said, Mama, beach. So basically it was the mother's expression. Children respond to your expression. They do not talk to an angry face. That's when they become introverts. All right? So this is where today, with the help of RGBA, we are able to, but clinical research is continuing. So we are part of the team, and every time they hack on something, then they train us, but they certify us only when we have hacked on our client, made a difference, then our certification comes. And we certify as well. It's from New Jersey, Santa Cruz, and Smart Inspiration. Thank you.
Well, time is running, but we'll still stick to 2 more points which we have to touch base on. Will not be fair if we don't touch the SDGs, because we have to speak about it, because it is the trend of the day. But let's not keep it as a trend. We'll actually share with the entire education fraternity here what are the SDGs that we are dealing with right now and how far we've been successful. Let's do it this a little quick. We'll just touch base on it so that we'll leave the floor open for some Q&As. Okay, Taruna?
I'm looking into the education equality, that education is for all. That's something which I look.
Fantastic. Absolutely.
I think gender equality as well.
Yeah, in his
In the
case,
work,
yes.
yeah, in my case, in workplace and in professional training, where there are equal rights in education for everyone, becomes very important in the corporate setup, actually.
Lovely, sir. Nadia? Mike, Nadia.
Oh, yes. I always forget about the mic. So I would like to say something that I learned from my soulmate, is that I hope to see inside the classrooms education and not schooling.
Fantastic. Elizabeth?
See, today we don't have to do rocket science. There's RGBA there. Sustainable goal is don't hire and fire, please. Before you take them, know where their skill is, and we train them. Especially in top management, no need to pay the 200,000, 400,000 without knowing, are they responsible? It will be on the chart. And no need to do this just to hire and fire. Your resources need to be intact. If I take my trainers, I make sure they are in which line before I give them to my students. So that is sustainable. Corporate world need to get on to that. Thank you.
Thank you. So last but not the least, this is a challenge for all of us anyways. How do you guys dealing with, convincing the authorities, especially for the implementation of the inclusion? We have some areas in certain external level examinations, especially offered from the government of India. So this was my prime question to Taruna today. And I'm hoping that I'll go out of this room with a convinced answer.
In fact, there are a lot of accommodations available even in because normally people believe that we don't have those accommodations available in the board. But right now, I feel there are lots. But only thing is, the person who is dealing with them should know about it. They should be aware themselves. Now, when it comes, and again, when it comes to curriculum expectations, there are a lot of integration which we do. Now, if in case I talk about preparing children for vocational aspects, in Indian curriculum, they do have subjects called home science.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So no one thought about it, but if you see, we can implement some of your, UK curriculum strands along with them and integrate that. Prepare children from the beginning rather than waiting for end.
Yeah,
So that is something which works.
this
and
is
I'm
very
working.
interesting, and I'm convinced. I'm being straightforward because I was expecting an answer that probably I could take back with me, because we do have a very good cooperation in the European Union, wherein the Irish government has made the curriculum, for inclusion free to all standards and member states of the European Union. So home science is that answer which I've got from you, which I'm going to definitely take along with me. So, time is running up. So, what we will do today is my question to the audience: were we able to take something from this discussion here today? Because I feel that most of our discussions weren't theory based. It was also a practical approach which all these stalwarts have experienced, in their day-to-day experience. And I at least have taken a lot, and I'm going to treasure this forever. And I'm definitely going to implement this. When I say this, I mean it. So, Ms. Chatterjee is there. So she has a question. Ms. Chatterjee is the Director of Communications, GEMS Academy, and she is also an expert in differentiated education. Ms. Chatterjee.
Good afternoon, esteemed educationists here. So this was a phenomenal experience for me, listening to all of you. I am in the UAE for the last 14 years working for GEMS. And I have been a classroom teacher for quite a number of years. So I think what I gleaned from this whole experience is the fact that, differentiation is basically answering the limiting beliefs. From the childhood, if you are kind of endowing your child with the understanding that you are limited, your experiences are limited because you have, your understanding, your appreciation of everything is limited because of the challenges that you have, then you're automatically delimiting the child and his exposure and his or her experience. So that's something that is very, very, sound from what you just spoke about. I mean, that's what I gleaned, and I think everybody should understand that this limiting belief is something that we need to challenge all the time. The other thing is, being a classroom teacher, there are two things that I have learned after years of teaching, I've moved into my present role here, that differentiation by process and differentiation by product is what works in a classroom environment. I'll talk from my experience, and you are real authorities, and salute to you, the teacher salute to you for this, what amazing work you're doing. So differentiation of process, what I glean is like, you need that one child who wants a pat on the back. So you just go there and stand and say, wow, amazing work you're doing, And that creates such a phenomenal understanding of that belief that you kind of instill in that child. It's so amazing. And the differentiation by product is like you give them a choice board and you say, what would you like to do? So you are aspiring for the same goal, but you're giving the option to the child to ensure that the child has a say in this. Because of the limiting belief, the child has never had a say.
Exactly.
But you are giving that power in the child's hand to ensure that that's happening. And so what you were talking about, and I was kind of thinking back in the years of teaching that I've done, like I'm 21 years in education, I'm thinking that, if my friends back in school had the kind of support that you are providing today, life would have been so much different. So thank you so much for that, and this is a wonderful opportunity. Thank you, Naresh.
Well,
You.
we'll really stick to the time. If you have any question and answers, please feel free to speak to us after the session because I'll be leading the next presentation. So thanks once again.
Thank
for
you very
this
much. Thank you very
Wonderful
much.
Give him a round of applause,
Great.
everybody. Great
Thank you.
panel.
Team of panelists.
Great moderator. Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. Fantastic.